high school, I had a couple of friends who I thought, these are my people. We are going to be friends for forever. We're going to get married and stand up in each other's weddings. We're going to have babies together. We're always going to live in the same area. And that hasn't happened. We don't live near each other. We haven't stayed as connected as I thought that we were going to. Relationships change. In March, when the pandemic hit, I was watching the news and I thought, like, oh, July feels like so long. Like, we have to be quarantined or we have to be on a lockdown until July. Like, I'm never going to make it. And that changed when things didn't open back up quickly or the way that we had thought that they would, or that I thought that they would. And now here we are in October, and we still don't seem to have any normalcy yet. Every time that we've made a plan, things have changed yet again. Our circumstances change. I am a different person than I was 6 months ago, that I was even a year ago, and that's a different person than I was 5 years ago, or 10 years ago in high school, or 15 years ago when I was in middle school. We change. Change is a part of what happens in life. Our circumstances change, our family dynamics change, our school situations change. Change is just a part of being human. And we can see that when we look at a newborn baby and then we look at somebody who's elderly. Like, that is a vast difference. There is a lot of change that happens. God has created human beings to change in that way, for us to grow and develop and to mature. And we can sometimes find, though, that the change that happens on earth can feel jarring and weird, like the pandemic, or like not being friends with somebody that you thought you were going to be friends with for a really long time. It can feel difficult and it can feel upsetting because people actually crave consistency. We crave for things to not change. Small people, when you're raising kids, they give you a lot of advice about, or professionals give you a lot of advice about always being consistent, because people actually crave consistency. We don't want things to change as much as they do. We've been in a series called Knowing God. This is week 2 of Knowing God, and we today are talking about God's changelessness, that God does not change. And we are going to see that God doesn't change, and that is life-changing. There's a problem with how much change happens in the world around us. There's a problem that we have with our bodies deteriorating and us dying. There's a problem that we have when our friendships fail. We have a problem when our plans don't work out the way that we wanted to. Our life changes drastically in a moment. We don't like that. It doesn't feel good. Change happens, and things happen in our life because of just the nature of creation, but also because of sin. Things can happen. People could die as a result of just living in a broken world where that happens. Things change and people change because of maturity. Your relationships might change because you walk away from a friendship because you have actually matured, or vice versa. Maybe you haven't matured and somebody else has, and so they have walked away from that. We can find, though, that God is never changing, and that is life-changing. God is not human that he should lie, not a human being that he should change his mind. Does he speak and then not act? Does he promise and not fulfill? I have received a command to bless. He has blessed, and I cannot change it. God is not a human that he should lie, not a human being that he should change his mind. God never changes his mind. He is perfect. He is unchanging in his character. That is important to us, and that is important to know, because that actually provides a really phenomenal foundation for our faith. If we were worshiping a God who was always coming and going with the wind, or ebb and flowing with the tide, we would have nothing to stake our ground in, or stake in the ground for our foundation. God is never changing, and that is life-changing. It provides a foundation for our faith. God is always good no matter our circumstances. Our circumstances can change a ton, but we can find that God never changes. He's always good no matter our circumstances. He is always perfect. He is always just. He is always loving. We find that his word, his purposes, his character, his love, salvation does not change. Our salvation, our knowing the Lord, our eternity with him never changes. So when we're feeling like the world around us is changing a ton and we don't really know where to put our feet and how to stabilize ourselves, we can find that we have confidence in knowing that God is never changing. And that is life changing. I found this when I was going through a season of a lot of anxiety and fear, that I was feeling like the world around me is not a safe place and that I need to protect myself from that, and I want to control and micromanage everything that was going on. And as I realized that I could not do that, it actually brought me a lot of comfort knowing that God never changes. And so even when my circumstances are changing, I can rely on the Lord. Trust God, trust and know that God is never changing and that is life changing. If you don't know the Lord, I pray that you would reach out to somebody here at church, whether that's me or Pastor Ryan or Garrett or your leader, and ask them about what that might mean to know the Lord and to trust him, because God is never changing, and that can be life changing.